Okay, starting this. And we're setting up, redirecting. Okay, and we are live. Awesome. We are here today with Evolved Love Connections. And we are talking with Hema, and I am going to allow her to pronounce her last name because I don't want to screw it up. But
just Hema is fine. Yeah, the last name is kind of a mouthful.
It is. And Hema is so exciting. She bops around the world. She runs a radio show called The Holistic Mystic. And I will give you a link later to check her out. She is considers herself a holistic empowerment coach, a gifted healer, and a psychic. Now, I met Hema a while back, and I just love this woman's energy. So we're going to let her introduce herself and tell us who she is and how she walks around this world.
Oh,
Hema,
thank you, Debbie. Thank you. It's so great to be with you. Like I said before we got on the Facebook Live, I said yes to this interaction with you because I just want to hang out with you more. So this is one way to do that. Yeah, it was a great introduction. I do consider myself a psychic, an empath, and a medium. So medium means that I channel spirits from the beyond, and I use a lot of these insights to help with mentoring and coaching individuals. And typically people come to find me if they're feeling stuck in their lives. They feel like they've done all the things. They've done the meditation and the yoga and the therapy, but things still are stuck, and I help them move through blocks in their lives, because typically those blocks are related to stuck and stagnant energy, which is going to be I think the topic of what we're talking about today. I teach a lot of workshops, around the world, mostly in the US this summer. And I like to focus on talking about our energy body, and how to feel our subtle energy bodies. So that's something that I'm really into and excited to share with you today.
I love that. Yay. Great. So how did you get to, how long have you been doing this? Where have you been teaching? What kind of things have you been teaching about?
Yeah, great question. So I found out when I was very young, maybe 12, just around puberty age, that I had psychic abilities. I dreamt the death of my grandfather when I was very young, and dreamt it in great detail, like 2 days before it happened. And so when the phone call came through and we found out that he had passed away, and it was very sudden, it was like completely unexpected. That's when I thought, oh, okay, there's something here, because I had dreamt the whole thing in detail. And so that set me on a path of exploration. I would do things like meditate at the age of 12 and 13, trying to like really figure out what it meant. And sometimes I was successful and sometimes not. But a few years after that, I actually discovered too that I could do hands-on healing. So I, just like it talks about in the Bible, not to get religious, but hands-on healing is where you put your hands on somebody and you can actually see a reversal in what's happening in their bodies. And so I did that for many years in the background. My day job, I worked as an engineer in high tech, but on the side, I've been doing healings for people, doing remote healings, talking to people on the phone. I even worked in a hospice center at one point. Volunteered there, just doing a lot of this kind of healing and therapeutic touch. And a lot of it just sort of accelerating after my son went to college. And then I dropped more into some classical tantric teaching, some neo-tantric, and everything just kind of exploded from there. So I found that after that, after I was done with raising kids, it just, the whole thing sort of took off on the fast ramp. And so now I do this full time. I actually help people with healings and help them move through blocks and energy. So yeah, it's kind of exciting. It's very different from the tech world. I'm going to just tell you that much.
Very different from the tech world.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And so where have you been exploring your teachings? Where have you
Oh,
put
great.
your
Yeah.
teachings out
I
there?
actually taught at Soul Play, which is a great festival up in Northern California. I was very fortunate to lead 3 workshops there. And I've been very fortunate. I'm getting invited to speak and participate in workshops. So I taught at a Network for New Culture event in Hawaii earlier this year. And actually teaching at a couple of Network for New Culture events this summer. And then I'm putting on my own retreat at the end of August in the Pacific Northwest in near Seattle, and I'm co-organizing that, and it's called the Conscious Connections Retreat. So I'll send you a link to that.
Nice.
And yeah,
Absolutely.
it's about, I'm all about these days creating like deep community, deep connections, like falling into conversation vulnerably and in an open way. For some people that can be terrifying, but for me, it's like that gets to the really essence of what a person is all about. I don't want to hear about, what sports game
No.
or, what's happening politically, but I want to know, like, who are you and what makes you tick, and
Yeah.
what are the things that you struggle with? What are the things that bring you joy? Because that's how we get to know people. So that's
Deep
what I'm all about.
conversations
Yeah.
are the only kind of conversations I really enjoy.
Yeah.
That's how we're going to heal the world.
That's how we're going to heal the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me what your childhood was like. Tell me what patterns you're living. Tell me what hurts your heart. Tell me what brings you deep joy and happiness. Like all of those conversations, I think are really valuable. And I can just imagine though, if I'd gone up to someone in the tech world and said, "Hey, so what brings you joy and happiness?" They would have just looked at me like I was crazy. But I think that that's what that's where reality is we need to be having these deep conversations with each other. Because once I find out that you're just like me, I mean, there's
Right.
going to be less hate in the world. There's going to be more love and compassion, more empathy. And so let's just take off all of those external masks and get down to the essence of who we are.
Yeah. You are me and I am you, and we are one, and we are love.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's what it all boils down to,
I
right?
agree. We're evolved love. Yeah, I
Evolved
agree.
love.
Mhm.
So creating evolved love connections is really what it's all about.
It's really what it's all about. That's what I
That's
think.
really what it's all about.
Yeah. Love is
Yeah.
that very universal force that connects all of us, right? There are stories that I share where I remember watching this one episode on Oprah where there's a woman whose child had been killed by a gunman in a school.
Mhm.
And it was a very powerful episode. And the mother comes on and forgives him, right, in front of everybody. And she basically said to him, she goes, "I love you. I understand that you're a troubled human being and nothing can bring back the loss of my child. But she's like, I can stand here and say that I love you." And, he just broke down in tears. His life is transformed now. He does all kinds of activism work. So, the power of love in an instant can change a situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love
Very
heals
strong.
all.
Love definitely heals all. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're forgiving yourself or your parents that have passed, I mean, just forgiveness.
Yes, that's huge.
Just forgiveness. It's like, thank you for me being here today, being in this body today, right here, right now.
Right.
And thank you for all the crap that you put me through. So I could be here, right now, living this amazing life.
Right. Exactly.
Being grateful for all of it. Gratitude.
Yeah, I
love,
think one of
understanding.
the most healing conversations, sorry to talk over you a little bit there. One of the most healing conversations I had was with my father who passed away. And then I realized, there's like this real power accessing spirits who have moved beyond, especially if there's unresolved business, to have those conversations. So I do those now for clients. I channel in people who are deceased. And it can be so transformational. There's such a big forgiveness piece, like you said, and there's just this realization that this person really loved me, even though they may not be physically next to me, that they still love me and they still come through to tell me that can be huge. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember my father coming in to visit me after he had passed, and just in tears, I did the best I could.
Right.
I'm really sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry for all the hell, but I did the best I knew how to do at the time. And it's just instant forgiveness. Once you hear that side of it, you hear that, I want to forgive. I love you. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's,
Yeah, we
powerful
tend to
stuff.
forget. We tend to forget that our parents are just trying to do their best
Yeah.
with the tools that they have, and that they're people too. And
Yeah.
they make mistakes and they trip up. And so, yeah, to have those conversations can be so transformational.
And not just with those that have passed, but even, your partners, your children, your associates, your friends, to, let go of the grudges and really hold yourself in the present and just try to be and try to love everything and everyone as they are right now.
Yeah.
Knowing that everyone is just doing the best they can.
Yep. And was it Ram Dass said that we're all just walking each other home, right? So yeah, just knowing that that's the case.
Yeah.
It's interesting because some people come to me and say, well, I want to be loving and I want to be able to be that, but I can't because they're holding on to things, right? And like you said, grudges, that made me think that there's a lot of emotional stuff that we tend to hold on to as adults that can really affect our energy field, can really block up the system, so to speak. And so grudges is one of those things, right? The grudge that you carry around isn't hurting anybody else but yourself, right? Or the anger that you have, it's only eating away at you. The other person doesn't know that you're angry, right? They're walking through life kind of oblivious to what you might be feeling. And so once we realize that those things are just, we're hanging on to those things and they're harming us, might be easier to set those things down and really open up to love. But yeah, grudges is a hard one. People carry a lot of grudges around.
I have there's a woman on the Facebook Live that says, what keeps from asking deep questions?
Oh, I think that's a great question.
Yeah.
You know what I think keeps us from asking the deep questions is, for some people, I think a lot of us, it's scary to be that open and that vulnerable. We're taught in our society that you have to be strong and you have to put on a brave face. And I would say, like, masculine presenting, male presenting get this more than female presenting, but it can happen in all areas. You don't want to show weakness. You don't want to show vulnerability because then there's fear that something might happen to you. And I would say what prevents us from asking the deep questions is primarily fear of what people are going to find out. So, for example, if you find out something about me that I share vulnerably, I worry that you may not like me, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. There's this fear that we'll be excommunicated from the tribe. Yeah, rejected. And, a lot of that is our limbic brain kicking in, where we have this tribal, and we are all tribal in nature. And so we're scared that we're going to get kicked out of the tribe, because the tribe is what we needed to depend on for our livelihood, for our well-being, to survive. But, it's not like that anymore. We can survive without a tribe. I mean, there's Uber Eats. We'll survive, right? There's Amazon for grocery shopping. We'll survive. But that's still there, that societal rejection, or that rejection between you and another person, if you're open and share your stuff, right?
Well, as Michael says, it's fear of the unknown as well.
Oh, it's also fear of the unknown. Yeah. I agree with that. It's like,
what's going to happen if I
what's going to happen?
My truth?
Right.
What's going to happen if I ask for what I want and I'm denied?
Right.
Or I speak my deepest fears and they're met with rejection. What happens then?
One of the exercises I do when I lead workshops, if I do like these heart connection rituals, and one of the questions that I make the dyads do, the pair of people do, is, what I'm afraid you will find out about me is, right? And then you fill in that sentence. It's kind of a variation of things that are done at high, and that one can be really vulnerable. But then what I make the participants do after that is, when the person shares vulnerably their deepest fear, the other person says, "Thank you for sharing, and I love you anyways," right? And people just break down into tears, because that's the thing. We want to know that we're loved no matter what, for the light and the shadow, for both.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely. Great.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
all of this all of this is related a lot to patterns that we've lived in our family of origin. Often family of origin, we're not that vulnerable. There's a lot of stiff upper lip that goes on, or it might be a completely dysfunctional environment where there's a lot of emotion and volatility. That's kind of how I grew up, a very volatile environment. So I learned to just hide, keep things
Yeah.
hidden, not communicate, right? That was a survival mechanism for me back
Yeah.
then. But what I realized is that energetically, it was affecting my energy field, which is, the thing that I love to look at. People don't realize how much resides in your aura. So of course, the aura is the energy field around you. And, I have clients that come to me who have gone to therapy for decades, and they'll come and do a couple of sessions with me and feel completely different and be acting differently, because what I do is I clear out that stuff from their subtle energy bodies.
All
And
the
so,
muck.
yeah, all the muck. So people don't realize, that grudge that I carried around, it's over
Yeah.
here in my aura. And that anger that I have towards my mother, well, it's right here. And that disconnection that I felt with my father, well, it's here. All of that stays with us until
Right.
you find someone who can clear that out. And that requires different things. Sometimes I have clients do exercises or do soundings. I mean, everybody's different as to what helps clear that out.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's stuff that we're walking around with that we're not even aware of.
So how do you know if you're walking around with something I mean, can you just feel heavy? Do you feel just stuck? I mean, how do you know when to ask for help?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I talk about this on my radio show too, but I say, if things in your external life are not quite going the way you would like them to, so you have a relationship that's feeling kind of uncomfortable and bumpy and it's not smooth, or if you're having a work experience that's really feeling toxic to you, if you're reliving the same thing over and over again with the same result, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought I dated this person, 10 years ago, and I'm with this same different name, different body, but it's the same pattern. If you
Yeah.
start noticing things like that, it can also be too that you're feeling heavy, you're feeling kind of like sludgy, that you can't really move through your life easily, and you feel confused, you don't know what to do next.
Or you have a lot of physical problems showing up.
Or you can have physical problems showing up. Yeah. So the way it works is, and the when I describe this is all information that's come through deep meditations and what people call these days downloads. So messages that I get from spirit guides. But a lot of our issues start first in the subtle energy field around our body. And if we don't address those issues, they can then become more dense and manifest in our physical bodies. And so, yeah, if you have physical pain, chronic physical pain, there's a disconnect going on. There's something that needs to be resolved. And it could be a connection with your body. It could be a connection in your energy field. You could be carrying around grief, from someone who's passed away that you've never had a chance to express. And if we don't express these emotions, then those will manifest in our bodies as illness. And so that's not always the case, but this is something to know and be aware of. And so that's why clearing out an energy field, your energy field, is very important, can ensure health at all levels.
So what are some tips and tools that people can do on their own to help to try to clear their own energy field?
Yeah, I would say the first step is to be aware in your life. So start noticing, what is my external world like? Like if you're always having an argument with your boss, if things are feeling always angry, at home, or is it feeling joyful and easeful? Is your external life feeling joyful and easeful? And if it's not, that's a good indicator that maybe there's something that I need to look at, or maybe there's something that I need to deal with, right? And remember, I mentioned before, I mean, we don't want to have the deep conversations with other people. We're even more scared to have the deep conversations with ourselves. So it's about first noticing, okay, I noticed that I'm having the same thing happen, or that, my abundance around money is not feeling great. And then to dig into that, okay, why is that? What is my relationship to this person or to money, and starting to understand, like, what are my patterns? How do I view the world? What are the thoughts that I have about this situation? So awareness is the first thing. I always tell my clients to start keeping a journal of the thoughts that go through their heads if it comes to a specific topic. So, write down. And often people say very negative things to themselves about their bodies or who they are. And that can be blocking you from all kinds of things. If you say, terrible things to yourself, then other people outside might be treating you terribly too, because that's the energy that you're giving off, right? So that's the first step, is be aware, keep a journal of what your thoughts are. And then start analyzing, like, oh, okay, so this doesn't feel so good to me anymore. Let me figure out why that is. It could be because your boss reminds you of your mother and you had a very fraught relationship with your mother, right? It can be all kinds of things like that. Right. And we might not even realize. But I think self-inquiry is really important. And you get to a point where it's hard to see the forest for the trees, to see your own stuff. And then you come to someone like me to help you. But everybody could do this. Like, keep a journal, notice what's happening in your life, be curious, right? Constantly be in inquiry. Oh, this happened. I wonder, why did that happen? Why did it happen that way? Could I have reacted differently? Did this go the way I thought it would go? Those kinds of questions.
And then from there, go get help.
Yeah.
This is happening. I need to find out why. Can we get into my subconscious and reprogram those neurotransmitters that activate fear every time this happens in my life, or anger?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And there's more to it than that. I found that it's not just about reprogramming the subconscious. I help people do that, but it's about reprogramming the soma, your body. So one of the gifts that I've discovered that I have, and I've been doing this for probably the last 7-8 years now, is people's bodies will tell me what they hang on to. So for example, I just worked with a client who came to see me, and she was feeling very stuck in her life. And her left wrist was just screaming at me. And I didn't know anything about her medical history. So I started working with her wrist, and I said, "You injured your wrist." And she said, "Yeah, how did you know?" I said, "Well, your body's telling me." And there was so much fear just located in her wrist because something awful had happened to her wrist when she was a very little girl. She was carrying around all this fear in her body, which was manifesting itself in other ways in her life. And so she's like, "Wow, I thought I'd gotten over that." I'm like, "Yeah, but your body is telling me that it didn't." So then we worked on clearing that out. I use a variety of things, mostly hands-on healing, energy from my hands and my body. And once we moved that energy out, her body wasn't signaling fear to me anymore. Nice. And I can even go down into deeper, like I can pick up memories of incidents that have happened to people. So another example is that I worked with a woman who was feeling very distant and disconnected from her husband. And when I started, I just put my hand lightly on her solar plexus, this image came up of when she was 4, she tried to run away from home because she was exploring and she was curious. And so she got on the bus and left her house and went like 3 stops down. And then the bus driver realized that she wasn't with an adult, and, someone called her mother. But when her mother found her, her mother was very severe and like beat her for leaving the house, right? Rather than saying, "Oh, I'm so happy you're safe," and hugging her, beat her. And so now this woman, whenever she tries to express her independence in her relationship with her husband, she pulls away because she's afraid of being punished again. Wow. So once we unlocked that, she was able to break through this whole I don't feel close to my husband thing. So it's really interesting how our patterns show up. And so people's bodies tell me, what is that thing that is blocking them?
Amazing. Where do you practice out of? Hema?
So I live in Northern California in the Bay Area, but I do all kinds of work on Zoom, and I do meet people in person very carefully, of course, during these COVID outbreaks. mostly on Zoom. And that has been very effective, because what people get when they work with me is I'm still working with them at an energy level. So we could be talking, but I'm doing energy work in the background. And I continue to do energy work on this person after we've met, for a period of time. So to help them shift their energy and move through their blockages. So that's the difference there, is I'm doing some, subtle energy body work for them, while we're also doing talking and other exercises to help move things through their soma.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What?
So you can actually find me. I can also send you the link, HemaHolisticMystic.com. And on there, I describe the things that I do, and what type of work you can do with me. But yeah, it's been really a fun ride, especially the part about reading people's memories in their body. Like, it just gets right to the core of what's going on.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. And things around abuse too. People have a lot of abuse in their bodies, especially women, female presenting.
Yes.
We carry around a lot of sexual trauma.
Yes.
And so the body tells me that too. And then once you remove that, you don't have to walk through the world in fear. You don't have to walk through the world with anger. You can be in joy.
Done some training around that as well, female trauma release. And yeah, I've been running women's circles for about 10 years now. So
I think that's
I know,
beautiful.
that a lot of shadow work, a lot of release work with women.
Yeah.
And, it's imperative for you to do this work in order to move forward and live a full life.
I
I mean,
agree.
I was so stuck in so many ways until I started doing this work.
Oh, wow. That's great. That's
And now
amazing.
I'm living the life of my dreams now.
Oh, that's beautiful. You're like a poster child for
I'm a poster child. Yeah, I went through it all.
Yeah, some
And
women think that we
yeah.
can't really move that trauma out of your bodies, but you actually can.
Oh, yeah.
And like you said, like once you release that, then you're able to call in the things that you want to manifest, that are for your highest good, and you're not,
Absolutely.
avoiding them or blocking them. So I think that's a beautiful story, Debbie.
Yeah, I had lupus. I mean, lupus symptoms
Wow.
that I had taken on from my mother when my mother was passing. I mean, her mother, I saw her mother and angels were up in the corner of the room, and I'm going, go, Mom, I got this. I will take care of everything from here. Go. And I watched her leave with her mom. And then a couple months later, I started getting lupus symptoms.
Wow.
And so I dealt with it for 3 or 4 years going, oh, it's genetic. It's, da, 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 da. And I went to an energy healer, and I walked out of the room, threw my lupus meds away, and never took another med.
Wow.
So yeah, and I had taken this on from my mom.
Yes, so that can happen. Transmissions can happen from ancestors. And so I teach people how to be very careful with their energy fields, how to protect themselves from that kind of thing. But yeah, that's the type of work that I do, is help people walk away feeling healed and feeling like their body is in a completely different place.
Awesome.
And for some people it takes one session, for some it's many, but over time there's definitely a shift that people see. Yeah, it's huge. So, and I yeah, go ahead. You had a question.
We have another comment here from Cynthia. I'm sure that I have in my body from lack of money, maybe ancestral. I've done some work around it, but it hasn't worked yet. So can lack of money or lack of abundance, can that be an ancestral?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So science has actually proven that in our DNA, we actually carry traits, not only genetic traits, but trauma traits from previous generations. And they did this study with survivors from the Holocaust and their descendants. And so there is a marker where you can see that there is trauma there. And, this is all new science. And so because I'm an engineer, I like to have science. Also, I read up on all the stuff. So yes, it's possible. Just an example, if your parents, let's say, grew up during World War II, for example, supposing they grew up in Europe during World War II, where there were famines and scarcity, right? they
Right.
would have passed on not only that mentality to you, that outlook, but they
Yeah.
would have also passed on the genetic, the trauma in your DNA
I
around scarcity.
I got that.
You
I
got
not
that?
only got the scarcity, but I got the gene deformities from too many generations of too hard of work with not enough food. So
Wow.
I have, my body has, it's like a broken chromosome that doesn't allow it to absorb certain minerals and stuff. And I'm tracing that back to genetics,
Mm-hmm.
right? But also, I mean, I've gone back 6 generations in my work, releasing withheld trauma on the female lineage side of my family of not having a voice
Mm-hmm.
and not being heard,
Yes.
and had to actually, I mean, witnessed 6 generations of abuse and, forgiveness, and it's intense.
It's intense.
It's intense. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
how far back do I have to go? I'm
Six
just going
is
to say
six is
all
pretty good.
generations back and
Yeah.
forward is clear now.
That's a really good question. How far do you have to go back? Well, not too far. I would say just 3 generations. And I think your story is really fascinating. But the work that we do in order to heal ourselves actually does heal past generations as well. And our spirits still, their spirits are still there in the ether, and spirits need healing just like we need healing. So when we do our work, then we are healing others in our lineage as well. So that's important to note. But yeah, what a great story, Debbie. Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
I
not
like
not
to do the deep dives.
that's awesome. That's why we're having this conversation.
That's why.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
I'm going to put it out there. I don't know how many people are on our Facebook Live at the moment. I don't know. But if anybody has a question that they would like to ask, I'm going to have you put it on the chat. And I will be more than happy to have Hema answer it. In the meantime, would you like to dive in and see if there's any messages for me from the spirit realm?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Let me see now. Let me tune into you. Well, it's kind of hard because I know you just came back from a trip, so your energy is actually
I'm
pretty
very
sparkly. Pretty
I'm very
sparkly.
sparkly.
Yeah. But and you and I don't talk a lot, so I'm just going to put that out there. So I am picking up that there's a big question mark above your head, which is around where do you go next? So you've had this trip and that was great. They're telling me it was a bit of a distraction. And now you're back to your so-called regular life, and I'm sensing that you're like a little confused as to where to go next. There are some options that you're looking at, but what they're telling me is that there's nothing that really calls to you strongly, like other than doing this evolved love connections thing. So you're kind of sitting with that. And so I'm just going to stop right there and ask, does that resonate
Okay.
for you?
It does actually. And I am actually planning a solo trip. Never in my life have I ever
This is
even gone
important for you.
away
You need to do this.
with myself, just solo, even for a weekend.
Mhm.
So I just planned a 10-day solo getaway.
Wow. You didn't go for the 2-day, you went for the 10-day.
I'm going 10 days. Well, actually, Dave is going on a 2-week kind of trip of his own, a little sojourn
Nice.
of his own. So, and he challenged me to do the same.
I
And
love
so
that.
I'm doing it. I
I love
just
that.
booked it. And yeah, so that really feels right, because I'm putting off making decisions until after that
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah, you're
Because
putting off a lot of things. They're asking you to not put off things to make decisions. There's one opportunity that has come your way. They're showing me that you're interested, but you're hesitating to make a decision. They're telling me there's this perfectionist in you that is like, if I take a step forward, I don't want to make a mistake. And what they're telling me right now, when I say they, I mean my spirit guides, they're telling me right now that for you, this is a time of exploration. So there are going to be what you think are mistakes. There's no mistakes. It's just about exploring what's right for you, what works for you, what do you enjoy, what do you not enjoy. The next year and a half is going to be a big period of exploration for you. So say yes to things, even the things that you wouldn't have said yes to before, because it's about you discovering parts of yourself. There's a lot of yourself that you haven't discovered yet.
I know that.
Mm.
I just haven't spent the time with myself
Mm-hmm.
in meditation, listening.
Yeah, there's more to it than that. It's listening. The listening is very important, but they're saying there's something about taking action. Like they're showing me that you've lived kind of a life, not the straight and narrow necessarily, but kind of what you think would be approved of by others. And it's time to break through that, right? So you know how in a bowling area they have when you're learning how to bowl, they have, what are those called?
The bumpers.
The bumpers. You've been living life between the bumpers. They actually want you now to take the bumpers off. Are you a bowler? Because that came through very clearly for me.
No.
No, okay. They want you to take the bumpers off and allow your ball to go in the gutter every now and again. There's no mistakes. So yeah, you have to, what they're saying is work through this perfectionist thing that you have going on.
Just balls out.
Yes.
Maybe
yeah.
that's it.
Maybe that's it. And just don't be afraid of making mistakes. Right?
I love it.
Yeah. Every mistake, the way you use the word mistake, is a learning. So yeah. So yeah.
Well,
there you go.
I'm excited. Thank you very much.
It's gonna be a very exciting time for you. Yeah. Very exciting.
It is. I think it's a very exciting time for us all.
I think so. I think some people are having more challenges than others, but
Especially in the last week.
Especially in the last week, yes. Yes, or even the last 2 years.
You're a psychic. Do you see, what do your spirit guides tell you about what's coming? How should we anticipate the next 6 months or so?
Oh, that's a great question. So before COVID happened, I got a lot of messages around COVID, like very specific messages. I didn't know that it was going to be a virus, but I got a lot of messages around, things are going to be staying at home, stock up on food and water, all that kind of stuff. And so I would ask, is this going to be a war? No, it's not a war, but it's a war of a different kind. And so, yeah, we're fighting a war against an unseen virus, which I think is really interesting. I think the next 6 months are going to be a bit of up and down for everybody. And from a practical perspective, we're seeing COVID cases increase, and I mean, practically everybody I know has COVID. And so we're going to have to still navigate that. We're not quite out of the waters yet, but it's dampening. Like by the end of the year, I think it'll be a thing of the past. What is happening though now in the next 6 months is people are questioning, right? People are questioning everything. And so I would say that it's really important for people to focus in on who you are as a person. It's back to what I said before, become aware of what's happening in your life and what you want to have differently, because the next 6 months is the time to set the intentions for what's going to happen in 2023 and beyond. Yes. And so that's what's important for the next 6 months, because now people are like, oh, well, now I know I can work remotely. Obviously, all corporations have done very well with me working remotely. Is that what I want out of my life? Yeah. A lot of conversations I have with people, they want to live in intentional community now because they realize during the time of COVID, being socially distant or physically distant from people was really hard. Want to be in community. Okay, go make that happen. Like really see what your learnings were during that time. And the next 6 months is the time to set those intentions and start making them happen over the next 2 years. So I would say the next 6 months is the time of getting clear on what you want and setting those intentions.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's important. I think we all need just to be present and be aware of the structures around us and what's happening to those, because there's a lot of big changes happening everywhere.
Absolutely. And if you also to do the work on clearing things out, and I'm saying it, of course, because that's what I do, but it's important because as you set intentions, if you're all gunked up energy wise and you block yourself from receiving the thing that you want, that doesn't serve anybody, right? So do the work to clear out with somebody, by yourself, but understand like who you are, what are your patterns, what's blocking you, so that you can live the life you imagine. And the more of us that do that, the more we raise the vibration and the frequency all around us, right? So It's all good stuff.
It's all good stuff.
It is.
So people can book with you on your website, on your
Yes.
Facebook page, on
Yes.
your
On my website. So that's Hema Holistic Mystic.com. And on there, I have a description of what I offer, and then you can book me. I have a link to my calendar and different offerings that I provide. And so you can book some time with me on my calendar. So it's really easy breezy. But you can also set up a 15-minute with me if you have questions or you're curious,
nice.
and you want to know if this is the right fit. You can also do that. And so, yeah, it's super easy. Or send me a message on my Facebook page. I'm under Real Hema Yoga on Facebook, so you can also do that. Yeah, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to helping more people. That's my passion in life and my purpose.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're
Yeah,
here.
to help other people thrive, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you
Thank
thrive,
you.
I thrive, the other person thrives.
Great.
And there's more than enough to go around in the universe, right? The universe is infinite. So go get your piece of the pie, is what I want to say.
Yay. And that piece of pie is as big as you want it to be.
It is. Yeah.
You just have to say how much you want, right?
That's right.
Call
That's
it in.
exactly right. Yeah, call it in. Yeah.
Call it in.
Don't push it away, right? Call it in and accept it, that
Yes.
you're worthy of receiving all of that.
Yes.
So yeah, we're all worthy of receiving evolved love.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. So where can we find you later this summer? Where are these workshops?
Okay. Well, I'm actually going to be teaching at a couple of Network for New Culture events, one in Oregon and one actually in Virginia. And then I'm running my own retreat, a co-organizing retreat called Conscious Connections Retreat, which is happening in the Pacific Northwest, just north of Seattle. And then starting in October, I'll be doing some events in the Bay Area, so Northern California, and actually in your area in San Diego. So I'm putting my calendar together, and yeah,
awesome.
I'll post that. Yes,
we'd love to have you down here.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, I will talk to you more about that.
Come
Debbie.
stay at the Pleasure Palace.
That'd be awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. We we're just back, and I'm putting together some things for Evolved Connections as well. So
awesome. Yeah, let's talk about that. I'm sure there's some collaboration that we could do there. Yeah, it's time. It absolutely is time. Yeah. And one of the things I love to teach about is this intersection of classical tantra with neo tantra, and just this intersection of sexuality and spirituality, because the two are very closely joined together. I was going to say joined at the hip, no pun intended. But and religion has told us, many religions tell us that the two are separate, but they're not. So I'm all about bringing the two together in a cohesive.
I love that.
Yeah. So
I love that. Beautiful. Because
more on that.
It is. It's bringing it all into one consciousness.
It is. Yeah. And then why do we separate sexuality from the rest of it? I mean, some of the most spiritual experiences I've had have been through a great sex experience, and have turned into something really, really amazing.
Absolutely.
So let's bring those two things together. It's about time we do that.
It is definitely time. Yes. Well, I don't see any more questions at the moment. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we?
No, nothing else other than I'm excited to be here with you, Debbie. And if you're someone who is struggling with working through blocks in your life, then please contact me. This is my purpose, and to be of service to others. So HemaHolisticMystic.com. I'm excited.
And we will definitely put up all the links to contact Hema. And I am so grateful for you to take time out of your busy schedule.
I'm honored. I'm honored. Thank you, Debbie.
Yay.
I love what you're up to. And I'll be in touch about stuff in your area. Let's collaborate.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you soon. And